Imagine a civilization, just as massive as ancient Egypt, with these incredibly planned cities and complex trade networks that just, well, it vanished. So today, let's step into the shoes of a historical detective. We're going to piece together the story of the Harappan civilization using only the clues they left behind.
Okay, let's dive right in. Our very first piece of evidence is this amazing 4,000-year-old seal. It's carved from a soft stone called steatite, and just look at that incredible animal on it. But lean in a little closer. See those symbols at the top? That's a script. It's a language we have absolutely no idea how to read. So this tiny object, it's both a clue and a massive, massive mystery.
And that, right there, is the heart of the problem, isn't it? Their script is a total enigma, so we can't just read their histories or their records, nope. Instead, we have to turn to what they left in the ground. Their houses, their tools, their jewelry, their bricks, beads, and bones.
All right, first things first in any investigation, we've got to define the scene of the crime. We need to figure out just how big this civilization was, and, more importantly, how we even know that all these different places are part of the same big story.
Archaeologists have a specific word for this: culture. Now, it's not what you and I might think of like art or music. For them, it's more like a fingerprint. It's a specific set of artifacts, things like these seals, certain types of beads, even standardized baked bricks that are always found together in a particular area from a particular time. It's how they connect the dots.
And when they started mapping out this Harappan culture, the sheer scale of it was just staggering. I mean, we are not talking about some small city-state here. This thing spanned parts of modern-day Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. What you're looking at here is the footprint of what they call the mature Harappan period, which was thriving between about 2600 and 1900 BCE.
And these things, this is a perfect example of that cultural fingerprint I was talking about. All across that enormous area, archaeologists just kept finding the same signature objects. These beautiful polished beads, really sharp stone blades, distinctive copper tools, and of course, those mysterious seals. That consistency is the smoking gun that tells us this was one single connected civilization.
And check this out, we can actually watch their footprint expand over time. This chart is just looking at two regions, Sind and Cholistan. But look at that jump. It shows a massive increase in the number of settlements between the early and the mature periods. So this wasn't just a static civilization. No, this was a culture that was growing and expanding and fast.
So, we've mapped the scene. Now it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty and analyze the forensic evidence. And honestly, what better place to start than in the kitchen? One of the best ways to really understand a group of people is to figure out what they were eating.
Well, thanks to the specialists who study ancient plant and animal remains, basically paleo detectives, we have a really good idea. They found charred grains of wheat, barley, lentils, and chickpeas. Animal bones tell us they were raising cattle, sheep, and goats, but they were also out hunting wild boar and deer. They even ate fish and birds. It sounds like a pretty varied and healthy diet, right?
But, okay, how did they turn all those grains into something edible? Well, meet the Harappan food processor. This is a saddle corn, a type of grinding stone, and they find these everywhere in huge numbers at Harappan sites. They were clearly a fundamental piece of kitchen equipment for grinding grain into flour. I absolutely love this quote from one of the very first excavation reports at a site called Mohenjo-Daro. You can just feel the excitement of the discovery, can't you? The archaeologist points out how common they are and that the hard, gritty rock shows signs of hard usage. You can almost hear the rhythmic sound of grinding echoing across 4,000 years. So, knowing what they ate leads us to an even bigger, more complicated question. See, most of these Harappan sites are in what we'd call semi-arid lands, not exactly the easiest place to farm. So how on earth did they grow enough food to support what was clearly a huge population?
Here's our next clue. It's a little model of a bull made out of terracotta clay. Archaeologists find these little guys and similar bull images on the seals all the time. But really, what can a toy-sized bull tell us about a whole agricultural system?
Well, this is where it gets clever. It requires what you could call an archaeological leap. It works like this. Step 1. You find these bull figurines everywhere. Step 2. That tells you the bull was a really common and important animal to them. Step 3. From there, you can infer that they were probably using oxen, which are just castrated bulls, for the heavy-duty work like plowing the fields. See how a tiny artifact can point to a massive agricultural practice?
And this wasn't just some wild guess. They found the proof. At one site, they literally unearthed a field that was plowed 4,000 years ago, and the furrow marks suggest they were growing two different crops at the same time. Elsewhere, they found the remains of irrigation canals, tons of wells, and even these enormous stone-lined reservoirs built to store precious water. These people weren't just farmers, they were expert water engineers.
Okay, so let's recap. We followed this trail of clues from the sheer size of the civilization's footprint right down to the tiny burnt grains in their cooking pots. So, what does it all add up to? What's the conclusion to our case, at least for now?
The case file would say something like this. The Harappans weren't just a random collection of villages. This was a highly organized, incredibly sophisticated agricultural society. They figured out how to master their environment using complex farming and really ingenious water management. And that's what allowed their cities and their population to absolutely boom.
And yet, for all the amazing stories these silent objects have told us, we have to come right back to where we started, back to that one piece of evidence that just won't talk, the one clue that's still keeping all its secrets.
Just think about it. If one day, somehow, we could finally decipher those little signs on the seals, what would they tell us? Would we finally learn the names of their kings and queens, hear the stories of their gods? Would we find out, once and for all, why they disappeared? The bricks, the beads, and the bones, they've given us a fantastic outline of the story, but the full, unwritten chapters are still waiting to be read.